The Bengals got one of their two remaining rookies signed. Demetrius Knight will be present for training camp, and he'll be part of a young group of back seven players that need to step up in 2025.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Jake Liscow, he's James Rapien, and we are your hosts of the Locked On Bengals podcast, covering your team, the Cincinnati Bengals, here since 2016. We're on YouTube, we're everywhere you get your podcast. So if you're new to the show, you're not already an everydayer for the Locked On Bengals podcast, you can hit that subscribe button and make sure you don't miss an episode. And we appreciate all of you out there that make Locked On Bengals your first listen. We're a day ahead of Mock Turtle Soup here, James, and all of the drama that will be discussed surely during that occasion, the one time per year Mike Brown meets with the media. But today we stay on the topic of the defense. Contract drama surely will be a topic today. And the rest of the defense, the back seven that we haven't discussed yet in our training camp preview series, we'll get to today as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, where new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And James, over the weekend, Demetrius Knight, the Bengals second-round pick, signs his contract. His second-round pick dominoes are falling around the league.
It's great news, Jake, to have one more done and one less thing to worry about. Obviously, the news broke on Saturday as rookies were reporting, and there's been so much attention on Shemar, and rightfully so, and Trey, rightfully so, that it kind of went under the radar a bit that Demetrius Knight was still unsigned. Now, I knew he was in town last week, which I thought boded well for his chances of being signed, especially because you did start to see these second rounders begin to sign. And this is really an NFL stalemate. I got a few texts on Saturday like, what is going on? How have the Bengals not signed their first two picks? I was like, all right, well, let's start with the second rounder. The reason why it took this long for Demetrius Knight is because the whole NFL was at a standstill. And the league was staring at the second round picks, and the second round picks were staring at their respective teams and wanting fully guaranteed contracts. A lot of those guys that were drafted in the 30s ended up getting fully guaranteed contracts. The 40s, not so much. And Demetrius Knight still, though, got a significant amount of his contract guaranteed, 80% of it guaranteed. But you get it done, and he is going to be on the field, and he is going to take part in the rookie workouts over the next few days ahead of training camp on Wednesday. So overall, positive news, good news, especially because we are talking about a guy that they're banking on to start. They need Demetrius Knight to hit the ground running. And so every single rep that he can get, he certainly needs. And so it's good that they were able to get him done before training camp on the day rookies report, despite all of the league activity, which, again, it was a big factor in why this took so long.
Yeah, the Bengals weren't going to get this done until some of those other dominoes started to fall because of the guarantees that were extending into the second round, like you discussed, James. And we'll talk about how they broke their precedent and fell in line with the rest of the league. They didn't really have a choice when these sorts of precedents around the league start to happen with guaranteed money. The league is very much going to follow suit and come up with contracts that are in alignment with what's happening for draft picks around them. That, of course, isn't happening with the Bengals' first round pick right now, but there are a number of reasons I think this is easier for them. Putting myself in their shoes, not excusing them, but reasons that I could see this being easier for them to think about and easier for them to stomach than what's going on with Shemar Stewart. One, it's a second round pick, so there's a lot less money involved. Two, there's been no public mudslinging, no public complaining, no public remarks, period. Demetrius Knight missed one practice at the beginning of things when he was tied to Shemar Stewart with some initial quote unquote reporting. I'll put that in quotes because I don't know if it was really reporting at the time.
And it was a rookie mini camp, like half hour. It was like a rookie mini camp, like half hour workout too. Just in case people forget, like it was nothing that he missed.
And then as soon as the offseason program kicks off, he's there. and he gets over the issues with the waiver, says that he's there to play. He says the right things at that point. Isn't saying, well, the team is putting business before winning. And that certainly rubs the team the wrong way. However you feel about it, and I know a lot of our Locked On Bengals insiders, Subtext subscribers, join subtext.com/LockedOnBengals if you want to check that out, have sent us stuff like, is Shemar Stewart going to continue to be the most disliked Bengals first round draft pick and who knows how long? That's where public sentiment is, it seems, for some at least louder fans on Shemar Stewart right now. People are very unhappy with the approach he's taken there. There's none of that from Demetrius Knight, which I think makes it easier for the front office to want to deal with that contract, and makes it easier, of course, for fans as well. But when you look around the rest of the NFL, this trend toward guaranteed money for second round picks will continue into the future. It's something that will be interesting to watch next year, as Travion Henderson, his latest pick, 38, got a fully guaranteed deal. Tyler Show Schaff, I actually have no idea how his name is pronounced, at pick 40, got a fully guaranteed deal from the New Orleans Saints. Mason Taylor at 42 got 91% guaranteed, about 90% guaranteed for Alfred Collins as well. So you can see the trend there starting to taper off a little bit in the 40s, like you mentioned, James, and it gets down to 80% by the time you get to Demetrius Knight at 49. And Elijah Arroyo, of course, signing his deal that was around 77% right before the Bengals got the deal done, helped to set that framework for the Bengals to get there with Knight.
Real quick, the Bengals better not have to worry about this next year, because if you're picking in the 60s, it doesn't matter. It's not going to matter nearly as much. Maybe the precedent gets there, but maybe you can stave it off for another year or two. So there you go. There's your the carrot, Bengals, outside of just winning, is you won't have to fully guarantee. Picking in the 30s, you're looking at 2 guaranteed deals. That's what you're looking at. If you're picking in the 60s, the low 60s or late 50s, yeah, I think you'll be just fine and be able to stiff arm it for another season. But yeah, it's part of the evolution. It shouldn't matter. I don't think it's going to matter. I think that these deals, these second round pick deals, will probably be a little quicker next year. It doesn't mean there won't be some holdups, but and I think the important thing here, as we kind of push the conversation forward, and we don't know the answer to this, but it's the language. Were they able to put that language that they want to protect themselves when it comes to every first round pick, not just Shemar Stewart, but every first round pick moving forward, that default language, were they able to get that in with Demetrius Knight in that contract? Because that sets a precedent that, hey, our second rounder this year agreed to that. They haven't done that in the past. They don't have they can't push the Jamar sign this deal with this in there, because they didn't put it in Jamar's deal. They didn't put it in T's deal or Joe Burrow's deal. So if they were able to get it in Demetrius Knight's contract, that could certainly help their case, even though they don't really need to make a case, but they can say, hey, look, this is how we're doing, this is how we're operating, and it could help their cause, certainly, when it comes to getting Shemar Stewart signed.
Just helping them to establish that precedent. Wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. Almost expecting that once we're able to confirm it, that Demetrius Knight will have this language in his contract. Again, not entirely sure, but he does get the guarantees that he expects, and the Bengals go up on guarantees. Chris Jenkins last year got 70% of his contract guaranteed, and that included most of, maybe 67% of his year 3 salary guaranteed. Cam Taylor-Britt and DJ Turner, the previous second round picks before Chris Jenkins, only got guarantees in years 1 and 2. So the Bengals have been trending in this direction, as has the NFL, and they get guarantees into year 4 of Demetrius Knight's deal, the first time any 49th overall pick, according to Jordan Schultz, has had guarantees in the 4th round of a deal, and certainly the first time for the Bengals. And again, doing those future guarantees is what's pushing the Bengals toward wanting to get this future voiding of current default language into contracts that we've been talking about with Shemar Stewart for eternity, it feels like at this point, James.
Eternity. It's never ending, and yet maybe it's going to end. I do have a thought or two on Shemar Stewart, so we will get to that, and then we have to talk about the defense, some more training camp discussion, and some actual football talk coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book, and the NFL season is right around the corner. So if you're looking for a place to just gauge where the Bengals are according to the odds makers, or get in on Joe Burrow's future MVP odds, the Bengals' chances of winning the AFC North. The Ravens are trying to do something no team has done, which is win the AFC North 3 straight years. Of course, you can get in on all the NFL action with FanDuel. Plus, they have awesome daily promotions, and whether it's baseball under the lights, golf on the green, high stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the perfect place for summer sports as well. And right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. All you have to do is download the FanDuel app or go to fanduel.com and again, place that first $5 bet and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit fanduel.com to get started.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. Workplace stress is at an all-time high. 61% of the global workforce is reporting higher than normal stress levels. And this summer, is the perfect time to take small steps toward focusing on your wellness and managing the challenges that come with your workday. Of course, most of us can't just quit our jobs or take endless vacations. We don't have that summer vacation that we had when we were kids, but we can start small, whether it's getting outside for a few minutes or adding movement into your day at some point, talking to someone who can help you navigate life's challenges. And that's where BetterHelp comes in. If you're dealing with balancing work and attending Bengals training camp practices and a family that you've got responsibilities to in the evening and you're just busy, the flexibility of online therapy will make it easy to fit sessions into your busy schedule no matter where you are. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse range of experience. Unwind from work with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
All right, Jake, let's let me drop this take on you because I do feel that it's going to happen. And I think maybe it gets cold taked and weeks from now, it's like, man, I can't believe you thought that. I kind of think the Shemar thing's just going to get done. I know it's been really loud and there's been a lot around it. I think part of what the reason it's been really loud is because Shamar's camp needs the and they still haven't, and I don't think they will. And I keep saying it on probably every platform I've had multiple times. I did a live event and I said it because it doesn't help things. But I think the Bengals are just still going to see past that and find a way to, one, I think get some of that language in the contract, that default language, but two, get this done. Where are you at? Are you confident? Are you expecting Shemar not to be on the field on Wednesday? What do you think?
You're saying you think it's done by Wednesday. You think that by the time practice
It
is open
will
to the public,
100% get done. It's a fact that it's going to get done, period, at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it gets done by Wednesday unless the Bengals aren't who I think they are, which that's why Demetrius Knight's contract was so kind of obvious and you could easily see the forecast because things were trending in that direction. It's like, all right, let's get it done. Last year, Amarius Mims signed on, I think, July 21st, 22nd, in that range. Things are a few days earlier this year. But yeah, I think that they get something done before Wednesday.
I don't really have a strong take here. I don't have a feeling. If you think it's going to get done, great. I'm going to take that as a reason to be somewhat confident about it. But
that's just a gut. That's not like Katie told me or
I know
someone in his camp or just to be clear.
The reason that I'm hesitant, I don't really have a read on it, is because, well, we've got the agent continuing his media tour and pushing narratives and various platforms that he's finding to talk about what's going on and trying to quote unquote set the record straight and present his side of the argument. And you've got two extraordinarily apparently stubborn parties. We know the Bengals are stubborn. We know that they dig in further. The heels just go into the ground when they're publicly challenged. And you've got an agent who has decided to take the approach of publicly challenging the team. Not that that's wrong to do. It just has never really been all that successful with the Bengals. And you're seeing that with Trey Hendrickson as well, talking about contract drama. It just doesn't really phase them. It doesn't push them to action. It doesn't seem to spur them to do what the agents want them to do in these moments. And so because of that history, you can see this going into training camp a little bit. You can see it getting done because the Bengals and Shemar Stewart maybe both kind of have that realization that, yeah, it'd be better for him to be on the field. And water under the bridge, I guess. You can't go back and fix his absence for the offseason program, but you need him to get as much experience as you can as soon as you can.
Yeah, I think the reason why my gut tells me something gets done is because I expect the Bengals to approach Shamar's camp again. And part of why Shamar's camp has probably been as loud as they have is much like Trey, right? Where the Bengals might not be negotiating right now. They might just be like, all right, well, if that's how you're going to act, then we'll revisit this when it's time for us to revisit it. And now's the time for them to revisit it. This is the next few days. And so I would expect that. Maybe it doesn't get done, but I would be shocked if they didn't approach him and approach his camp about figuring it out. And if I'm the Bengals, I've thought about this default language stuff. I would leave that in there and put a sweetener or two in there to get Shamar to sign it, because you do want to set that precedent. And if you backtrack now, the next year when you go to sign that first round pick, it could be ugly again. Just be done with it, and be done with it by making it a 75% signing bonus up front instead of waiting 3 months or whatever it was for Amarius to get. Basically, Amarius got 50 of it up front last year and then 50 of it 90 days later. Spruce that up a little bit. That's all. And I think if you do that and then Shamar's camp still says no, well then, and I think a lot of people already are, but then we'll just be looking at Shamar's camp. So I that would be my plan if I'm the Bengals. I don't know what their plan is, but that would be mine.
Seems like an easy thing to do, but again, they probably don't want to reward this kind of public
No
negotiating that
doubt.
they
But that's why
historically
I
have not
wouldn't
wanted
bend
to
on the
reward.
language. Just don't bend on the language, just leave it right there.
Sure. And we'll see what shakes out there. I was going to say deadline spur action. Maybe they see Wednesday as another deadline, but the deadline would have been Saturday. And that's when rookies were set to report. Shemar Stewart did not report. He's not under contract. He cannot practice with the team until he signs his deal. If he doesn't sign his deal, then you have an edge group for training camp that is short two bodies. They've got a lot of players at that position, especially compared to defensive tackle. We talked about the defensive front on, I think, Tuesday last week. So you can go back for more of the thoughts around that. But camp bodies becomes a bit of a question to me at that
Mhm.
point. Speaking of camp, let's get into the back seven here, James, as there are players in this group that are young and unproven or need to have bounce back years in some cases for a couple of the veterans in that group, where if you do get those steps from that unit, you could see the defense bounce back in a potentially bigger way than many are expecting in Al Golden's first year as defensive coordinator. We'll close the show there, coming up next.
Today's show is brought to you by Rugiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis, and maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is the next generation prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike usual pills that take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue, kicks in fast on average in 15 minutes, and effects can last up to 36 hours. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet may be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch, and you can read all of their customer reviews on their site. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL, Rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL, and use promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off.
A lot of young players on rookie contracts in the back seven, James. That includes the
Ooh.
rookie that we just spent 10 minutes talking about signing his deal in Demetrius Knight. That includes a bunch of players in the secondary. It includes Barrett Carter, who will be part of this defense in some way, shape, or form. DJ Turner, Jordan Battle, Cam Taylor-Britt, Dax Hill, DJ Ivy, Josh Newton, Dejon Anthony. I mean, you go down this depth chart, you're finding player after player on rookie contract. The players on veteran contracts in the back seven, Logan Wilson, Geno Stone. That's pretty much it. Oren Burks, you could throw in there as a backup as well. Tyson Anderson as a backup as well, drafted in 2022. Is he still on his rookie deal? I can't do math. Or did he get a 1 year?
Yeah.
He's still on his rookie deal too.
Rookie
All
deal.
right,
Yeah.
there you go. A lot of rookie deals back there, James. A lot of players that have shown flashes, a lot of players that have played well in stretches, and a lot of players that if they can become a cohesive unit and play well together more consistently, regardless of what's happening on the defensive front, which is its own issue, pass rush, its own issue that we've talked about. If you can clean up some of those coverage busts and be on the same page on the back end, the defense maybe isn't giving up 30 points a game. That's a step in the right direction.
No doubt. And they need to be able to create more chaos, create more game-changing plays. And Geno Stone, you look at his numbers, and he had the 4 picks last year, but a lot of those felt like they were coming after a really, really slow start to the year. And it needs to change. It needs to be better. Jordan Battle, there's a lot of Jordan Battle truthers out there. This is the year for Jordan. This is the year for Jordan. I would consider myself a member of the Dax Hill Truth Club, right? Well, this is the year for Dax. This has got to be a defense that has multiple guys that have flash, that have shown some ability, where they show that they're good enough to be part of a quality defense. And the Bengals are banking on that. I mean, they made no significant addition to, okay, I guess Demetrius second round pick, but outside of that, no real significant addition, and certainly no proven addition to the secondary. One, that's a fact, and two, to the back seven at all. And that means that they think, all right, well, Jermaine Pratt past this prime, we're going to find someone in the draft that can come in and give us a lot of what Jermaine could. We'll sign Oren Burks and go that route as a proven veteran to help replace Akeem Davis-Gaither, but probably someone that can give you a little bit more on defense if you need him to here and there. And so there's a lot of ifs, but I do think there's talent there. And so can they get more out of Cam Taylor-Britt and get him to be more consistent? Is DJ Turner, was before his collarbone injury last year, was he really taking a leap? And will he be able to pick up where he left off and be that guy? Dax Hill, I mentioned him. Geno Stone, they stuck by him, had him take a pay cut. I know a lot of people, including myself, probably wouldn't have went that route. Probably would have went in a different direction. All right, so Geno Stone, prove the Bengals right, prove everybody else that thinks otherwise wrong. I mean, it's that simple. And personally, I think that would be a great place to be in if you're Geno in a contract year, proving yourself. Same thing with Cam Taylor-Britt. It's a contract year now. And so if you go out there and you play well, guess what? You're going to be able to reap the rewards next March from somebody. And it might be here for sure, but maybe it's not. And so that's where a lot of these guys are, is either establishing themselves in the league because they are under contract next year, or really setting themselves up for a payday, whether it's here or somewhere else. So it's not just success from a football standpoint on the rookie deals. It's all right, well, what does that second contract look like? Because Cam Taylor-Britt, you could tell me he signs a multi-year extension next offseason with someone, including the Bengals, or he's a 1 year prove it, low dollar type guy that's just hanging on and trying to prove himself. And so it can go in either direction, I would say.
Yeah, all of these guys are essentially playing for future contracts. Dax Hill had his 5th year option picked up, so he's got another year that will be well compensated with the Bengals. He'll get at least a significant payday outside of his rookie deal. But for DJ Turner, for Cam Taylor-Britt, for Jordan Battle, for Geno Stone, they're all trying to show that they are mainstay players in the NFL, that they're players that can be part of good defenses going forward. And the fact that we still have questions about these guys, some of them have been with the team for so long. Dax Hill benched his entire rookie season, trying to learn safety, play safety for a year, and then they move him to corner. So Dax Hill, he gets unfortunately injured when he's showing well at corner, but you've wasted, I don't know about wasted, but you spent years not knowing what he is. And you've spent years trying to figure out, well, who really is Cam Taylor-Britt? And maybe that's enough of an answer. Maybe Cam Taylor-Britt just won't be consistent enough to be that
Maybe
kind of
not.
cornerstone player. Maybe that is the answer. This is certainly the last year with the Bengals where he'll have a chance to show it. And generally, the end of that rookie deal, if the NFL doesn't know who you are, somebody might take that risk as a 1-year deal, like you said, but big year for him, right? DJ Turner, still trying to figure out who he is. He's had some injuries. That doesn't help. Jordan Battle couldn't get on the field last year because you bring back Von Bell and significantly eat into his playing time. And so you still have all these questions about who is Jordan Battle. And this has been an issue with the Bengals for some defensive players for a really long time. It's not just this group of players, but the question that we have had to ask when we get to the end of some of these deals where it's like, man, who is this guy? Still trying to figure out Joseph Osai, still trying to figure out who these guys are at the end of their first contracts when you need to be making decisions about whether they're part of your future or not. And you're trying to win in the process. It's a difficult proposition when you don't know who some of the players are exactly on your defense.
And that kind of ties together with the Shemar stuff. Like year 3, Miles Murphy. I know we're talking about the secondary. Year 3, Miles Murphy. We have no idea what the hell he is right now. Like, you can't be doing that with Shemar. Like, you got to figure out what Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson are now this year. So
and they won't have a choice but to figure that one out, at least.
They don't.
For the defensive tackles.
Yeah, they've backed themselves into a corner, right? I do think that they for whatever reason think that the communication and I talked to Logan on Saturday at the Jungle Jam event, and Logan was like, basically there were like 3 messages happening, and now it's 1 message happening. And the 3 message thing sounds insane. I can't believe that was I can't believe that was being done.
That's not
But
the
like
first time we've heard something like that about that coaching staff, that there are multiple messages coming from different coaches.
And that's what it looked like. You know, like that's what it looked like. And so he said change was needed, and we needed this. And so great, go show it. Because I do think, like, if you go back, and whether it was the night Dax was drafted, we talked about him at corner that night. Everyone was talking about Jesse Bates's replacement. We're talking about him potentially playing corner. And then they take Cam Taylor-Britt. And then next year they take DJ Turner. Like, all of these guys, Jordan Battle, it was like, oh, well, that's Von Bell's replacement. All of these guys, at one time, it felt like, all right, well, they do have talent and they could be part of the solution. But for example, I'll go to Jordan Battle. It wasn't just that Von Bell was brought in last year. Jordan, I think, had the air kind of deflated. He was a little deflated from the Von Bell edition, and was like, fine, and kind of showed up to camp. How he showed up to camp. Well, this year, man, I need you to hit the ground looking like like a Pro Bowler from an in shape standpoint. And that doesn't mean he's going to play like a Pro Bowler, but you get my point. The approach should be that it should be totally bought in, and maybe part of that is if you're all getting the same message. And I do think Al Golden is going to do that. And when I think back to the 2024 Bengals defense, how maddening it was. Maybe it's because there were multiple messages being given, and that sounds like a recipe for disaster. So yeah, hopefully it can come together a bit. I mean, it's hard to be much worse than they were last year, but they need to be significantly better. And so how do they get there?
Only a few teams worse in scoring categories, in passing yards allowed categories. The Bengals in the bottom third for passing yards allowed. Of course, bottom 10 last year for points per game allowed. The only teams worse than the Bengals in points per game allowed: Jacksonville, Cleveland, Tennessee, Dallas, Carolina, and San Francisco. In that group, the Bengals tied with the Las Vegas Raiders at 25.5 points allowed per game last year. You get that number toward 20, then you're doing okay. Then you're probably doing fine. Secondary, big part of that. Tackling in that group, a big part of that. Getting the same message for every level of the defense, being on the same page, being cohesive, a big part of that. And that messaging bit and the how to teach it part is why they've got Al Golden in the building. And it's what we've heard kind of throughout the process. Once it became clear that it was going to be Al Golden, is how can you teach this thing to younger guys? You've been doing it in college. Can you come in and get our younger players that we think have talent on the same page and executing defense at a higher level more consistently? And that's his job, whether it's messaging, whether it's development, whether it's teaching, whether it's, Al Golden's talked a lot about having a plan for specific players. Whatever it is, it needs to take hold fast. And that's the challenge for this group of back seven players and for Al Golden, and the big push to get ready for all these guys and have your groundwork for the season starts in just a couple of days, James, for all of these players that we have all these questions about. And you, of course, will be there the entire time. I'll be coming into Cincinnati for my annual week of training camp next week, I guess, at this point. Boy, is that soon. And we'll have your training camp updates for you. But before then, we've got Mock Turtle Soup. We've got our annual Mike Brown answering media questions day coming up here. That's Monday. Is that right, James?
It's Monday.
So
the next time you hear
afternoon.
from us, we'll have time to react to Mike Brown's comments, among other things.
Yeah, we'll talk about all of the fun drama that surely will play out here until we just get to training camp. Then we're talking about who's practicing with who, the big plays, who's playing well, all the training camp reports that you've grown accustomed to here at Locked On Bengals. Until then, thanks for listening to this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. Hoo day, and have a good one.